and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. Bloomington Director of Public Engagement, Mary Catherine Carmichael, reported one new COVID-19 case among city workers at the April 16th coronavirus press conference. And Monroe County Health Administrator Penny Caudill talked about the temporary freeze on administering the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Caudill explained that the freeze had only a small effect on Bloomington's vaccine rollout because the city mainly gives the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines.
For us, we did not have any large-scale vaccination clinics planned with Johnson & Johnson yet. And so we just had to do more of a small pivot. We were using Johnson & Johnson for some of our outreach programs, and those are now being used with Moderna.
Reporter Dave Askins asked what feedback the county is receiving from the group contracted to help enforce the mask mandate. Caudill clarified that there are no mask police in Monroe County. Carmichael added that wearing a mask is a personal responsibility.
It relies on personal responsibility. And so everybody has to cooperate and do this mask wearing for the greater good. Now, relying on personal responsibility, not always considered best practice in a public health setting. Usually we have rules and regulations. Penny knows this better than I. She's a public health professional, and I'm certainly not. However, this is really kind of handing it back to the public and saying, look, if this is going to work, it's going to work because you make it work. We're not going to be the ones forcing you. We aren't going to be developing a mask police. This is on you. So I really challenge everybody out there to take that personal responsibility and take that charge that we've been given and take it seriously.
Caudill encouraged Hoosiers to continue to wear masks, wash hands, and socially distance. Director of Economic and Sustainable Development Alex Crowley shared updates on the old hospital site with the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission. At the April 19th meeting, Crowley revealed that a proposal had been selected for reuse of the core building on 2nd Street. He said the proposal would redevelop the core building into a residential building. IU architect David Walter added that the proposal has a lot of potential.
I will say that if this comes through, then we're not only preserving a historic building, but we're also providing low-income housing, all in a single package. And it may be a couple years down the road before they finish it, but we're off to a good start with this proposal.
Commissioner Deborah Meyerson asked how many units would be built and wondered about the proposed cost of housing. Crowley said the room number is in flux, but that the proposal focused on low-income housing.
One of the aspects of it that we liked is that there is a set aside of units for permanently supportive housing for the unhoused, right? So having a component that's baked in to have services and units set aside for that will be part of the proposal right now. As to what the total unit count, there's a kind of break point that happens in low-income housing tax credits where you sort of hit that 40 to 45 unit count, and you start to it becomes inefficient to go beyond that given the funding that's available. So we are going to be looking, though, to see if we can further densify the project to create a little bit more density than was originally presented. And that's some of the information that followed may allow us to do that. What that unit count will look like remains to be seen.
The city will move forward with the selected partner and work on a formal resolution. The resolution will come back to the Redevelopment Commission in the future for more discussion. The Bloomington Board of Public Safety talked about new hires at the Bloomington Police Department. At the April 20th meeting, Bloomington Police Chief Michael Dekoff announced that the BPD had hired its second social worker. He also revealed that a third social worker will join the police department in May.
Just for your information, our third social worker will start in the middle of May. She's not started yet. She's just graduating from IU. So by the middle of May, we will have 3 social workers on staff, and we intend to increase the number of hours that we have department coverage, and to hopefully increase the outreach that they do also.
Board member Luis Fuentes-Rohr was surprised that BPD had made 2 new hires without presenting them to the board. Dekoff clarified that the board only needs to approve the hiring of sworn officers, not civilian positions. The next Board of Public Safety meeting is on May 18th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
Let's talk about sex.
What is consent?
And what's not?
Consent is based on choice.
Consent is active, not passive.
Consent is giving permission without feeling pressure.
What is not consent?
Silence.
Passed out.
Intoxicated.
Fear.
Is
It
not,
is not consent.
God consent?
Ask.
Sex without consent is a crime. Only yes means yes.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Plan Commission discussed updates to the planned unit development of Southern Meadows. At the April 20th meeting, County Planner Drew Myers said the planning staff recommended the commission deny the outline plan due to its density and lack of usable open space.
Overall, planning staff still recommends denial based on the findings of fact and subject to Monroe County Highway and Drainage Engineer report, specifically finding B, which states the extent to which the proposal departs from zoning and subdivision regulations, such as density, dimension, bulk, use, required improvements, and construction and design standards, with the remaining concerns listed below. Requesting small-scale commercial use so that it is truly a PUD and not just higher density housing. The petitioner had communicated with planning staff that they were under the impression that having Clear Creek Urban, which is yet not approved completely, that is directly to the west, may allow for that type of commercial use, neighborhood commercial use, to work together with that. And then comprehensive plan recommendations. Again, the architectural diversity and standards should be set forth in the outline plan to consider including a diversity of housing types. Although the petitioner has provided some details about variety in the structures and architectural standards, we still need to see that directly represented in the outline plan document itself so that it can become enforceable. And then also based on the plan submitted, it appears there will be a street tree conflict. Another conversation with the petitioner and planning staff again regarding this one, and we feel now planning staff will be able to address this during the development plan stage of the petition. And then finally, the petitioner verbally stated that they would prepare the Rose property bridge to provide connectivity to the property's pedestrian trail. And we just wanted to remind the petitioner of that commitment and bring it up into discussion for this proposal.
Commissioner Margaret Clements raised concerns over the data used in the presentation. She said 10-year-old data is not reliable enough to support building in an area with sinkholes.
I would call, for instance, some of the data that is presented in the report as an extrapolation on a speculation that by now is almost 10 years old. So while that might have been our best guess at that time, we have new information. And that new information pertains to growth in Bloomington, although it's often claimed without supporting data that we have a solid 1% growth rate. Actually, in the state, we have a 1% growth rate in some markets, and that's not Bloomington. Bloomington has probably a 0.6.7% growth rate. So although this is optimistic and it would be beautiful if true, I just am challenging wholesale acceptance of this data, and also the changing dynamics with all the housing that has been built in the city. So I don't think that we can take at face value something that pertained in 2012 to what is actually going on in the city right now and in the county and in our community. And certainly I would challenge the justification for further density, especially on a sinkhole conservancy area, as something that would be in the best interest of the community.
Clements showed concern that this PUD would potentially set up a homeowners association for failure. She said the water drainage could be too expensive. Commissioner Jeff McKim argued that the proposed density of housing would financially strengthen the homeowners association.
The drainage issues aren't going to be increased by having more paired patio homes on the same amount of impervious surface. I mean, in fact, if anything, the additional number of residences could improve the financial stability of any homeowners association that would still have the same amount of impervious surface to deal with.
Commissioner David Schilling moved to continue the discussion at the May 4th Plan Commission meeting. The Plan Commission approved the motion unanimously. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the costs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone. And it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Bloomington City Council continued discussion on amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance at their April 21st meeting. Zoning planner Ryan Roebling presented an ordinance that reduces the floor plate size and density of student housing. He said building plans can exceed these limitations if they meet affordable housing incentives.
In multifamily and mixed-use districts, changing student housing separation requirements so that buildings on one lot also need to be meet the separation requirement. Projects using the affordable housing incentive are exempt from this requirement. In multifamily and mixed-use district, reducing building floor plate maximums by half. Projects using the affordable housing incentives may have double the floor plate maximum. In the mixed-use student housing district, setting a building floor plate maximum, whereas it did not exist before. Projects using affordable housing incentives will have no maximum in that district. These changes are made to adjust the size limitations to be more appropriate. In the residential high-density district, reducing maximum building height by 1 story. Projects that need additional height may meet affordable housing incentives and can be taller. This adjustment is made so that the maximum height is more appropriate for by right projects.
Councilmember Isabel Piedmont Smith proposed an amendment to the ordinance. She suggested that student housing may also exceed limitations if the plan meets sustainable development incentives. Director of Planning and Transportation, Scott Robinson, supported this amendment. He said the ordinance was meant to include these incentives.
That was not our intent when drafting this change to the UDO. We did want to include both the affordable housing incentive as well as the sustainability incentive.
The City Council unanimously voted to adopt the amendment. Roebling said the ordinance would remove a requirement that builders send notice to landowners within 300 feet of construction. Councilmember Dave Rollo proposed an amendment that reinstated the requirement. He questioned attorney Mike Ruker as to why the city does not support this practice now, even though they supported it before.
We've had this policy and the administration supported it when we adopted it. Why did you support it then?
You know, I can't address that with anything better than to say we are constantly trying to learn from policies that we enact and improve. And we don't see any purpose to this notice. And we have experienced the fact that it does create confusion and frustration among those recipients of the notice who only discover that they don't really have any way to oppose an ADU that's by right. So.
Resident Kathy Crabtree agreed that the notice is confusing. Piedmont Smith suggested the council should not legislate courtesy. The amendment failed 8-1. Council members unanimously voted to approve the ordinance as amended. The Monroe County Commissioners moved to approve additional funds for intersection improvements. At the April 21st meeting, Highway Director Lisa Ridge talked about the project, which will make improvements to intersections on Curry Pike, Smith Pike, and Woodyard Road. She said the Indiana Department of Transportation stepped up to help fund the project.
I want to thank NDOT because actually they reached out to me on this one. And, you know, we went from having, I think it was about $580,000 from MPO money originally to this project, and we're up to $2.4 million. And that is all due to NDOT stepping up and helping Monroe County with this project.
Commissioner Penny Githens said the intersection needs a lot of work, and Commissioner Julie Thomas commented that this will help build on previous improvements made to the intersection. The commissioners unanimously approved the funding. The Monroe County Redevelopment Commission discussed its partnership with the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation at their April 21st meeting. County Attorney Jeff Cockerell presented changes to the Commission's agreement with RBBCSC. He explained the changes clarify the difference between STEAM education and the Ready Schools program.
The purpose of these changes was, one, to tie and kind of clarify a little bit what's the difference between the STEM program, which we have funded, versus the Ready School initiative, which is what the request is for. How they came up with the Ready School initiatives, and particularly making sure that we include in here that they got feedback from local employers, and that they have seen other schools utilize these programs to great success. And that I think, and then finally that the Ready School program is an evolution of the STEM program. And so we would expect over the course of time that it would continue to evolve, but that the core principles and what the RDC doing is kind of funding that change so that when after the changes occurred, it will be still part of their curriculum.
Richland Bean Blossom Superintendent Jerry Sanders clarified that the STEAM curriculum is not being replaced. Ready Schools Project Coordinator Jamie Miller said the content is being changed to align with the local employers. The Redevelopment Commission voted unanimously to approve the agreement. The Bloomington Historical Preservation Commission discussed the partial demolition of a historical house. Assistant Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development Brent Pierce presented a request to partially demolish the Thomas Smith House and add a garage to the building. Commissioner Chris Sturbaum was surprised that the house is not locally designated as historic. He expressed caution moving forward with any changes due to the home's historical importance.
I think it's a really important house, and I'm surprised it's not already locally designated. It's one of the houses that grade school kids look at when they look at the Underground Railway connection in Bloomington. And I think we should be very careful with this house.
Sturbaum referenced the Thomas Smith House's current garage. He said the first garage was approved because it was disconnected from the house.
There's a functioning garage. It's just that they have to walk over to it, and that respects the house. That was the point of that garage, that it stayed off the house, let you still experience that house as it was.
The commission members agreed that the Thomas Smith House should not be demolished. Commission Chair Jeff Golden moved for the site to receive historic designation. The commission approved the motion unanimously. The site will be reviewed at a future Common Council meeting. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.
Thank you.